a publisher working in the Ukrainian capital, Kiev. Do stay with us, much more to come in the next half hour.
This is the BBC World Service, where we're looking at human nature.
I'm Dessa, the host of Deeply Human, and I've cornered all sorts of brilliant people, linguists, psychologists, anthropologists, and neuroscientists, to find out why people behave the way they do. Why are we supposed to love only one person at a time?
As an ideal, monogamy is spread around the world. It's practiced fairly widely.
Why does music move our bodies, even when we're tiny little babies?
When you hear music that you like, there's a chill that starts from your head, it goes all the way down to your feet, then it comes back up the other side. You just take it and ride that right into the movement.
Why do we get swept up by a crowd?
The more people, the safer they felt in the crowd. You know what the crowd stands for, you know what the norms are, and you act within them.
I'm examining the hidden motors that drive human behavior. First up, accents. Why do you talk like that?
Deeply Human at bbcworldservice.com/deeplyhuman.
Coming up in News Hour in the next 30 minutes, we'll have continuing coverage of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The country is under attack from all directions. There are reports of multiple casualties. In this part of the programme, we'll be talking to a close ally of President Putin. We'll also be getting reaction from Estonia's Prime Minister and hearing how all this is playing out on the global markets. All that's coming up after the news.
BBC News, I'm John Shea. Clashes have been reported in many parts of Ukraine after Russian troops invaded on Thursday. Fierce fighting is reported in the east, where Russian forces are said to have attacked a hospital in the Donetsk region. There are said to be clashes in the port cities of Odessa and Mariupol. Residents of Kharkiv said windows in apartment blocks were shaking from constant blasts as the Ukrainian military and Russian forces exchanged shellfire. Ukraine says Russian military vehicles invaded from several directions. Moscow says it launched missile strikes on military targets and airports. President Putin warned that any interference would lead to an immediate response. The NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg said Europe was seeing a war of a scale and type that people had believed belonged to history. He called on Moscow to cease its military action immediately. G7 leaders have been meeting to discuss further sanctions on Russia. Moscow has warned Russians against joining anti-war protests and demanded that its national media use only official Russian sources for their coverage. Our correspondent Caroline Davis reports.
Russia's media watchdog has ordered the country's media to only use official sources in covering the invasion. Russia's state media, which have ferociously defended the president, have shown no sign of changing tack and continue to defend the action. But on social media, some Russian influencers with millions of followers posted pictures of black squares with the caption, "No to war." They stopped short of criticising Putin.
European gas prices have surged more than 30% following the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Europe is dependent on Russia for both oil and gas, with 40% of its gas supplies flowing through pipelines that cross Ukrainian territory. Fears of disruption to supply have pushed the price of Brent crude oil up to well over $100 a barrel. Share prices have tumbled in the US, Europe and Asia. BBC News.
Welcome back to News Hour. We're going to stay with our only story today on the programme, Russia's invasion of Ukraine. We're going to hear now from the BBC's Nick Beake, who's in the Ukrainian capital, Kiev, and he's been talking to people there about what's happened.
The sirens have just started here in the capital, Kyiv. Like so many people, we were woken up by the sounds of explosions, and people across the country are reporting the same thing. The invasion, the attack that Russia promised would never happen, has now started.